Hi folks, welcome back. I think I finally have a name for this channel. I think I'm gonna call this Bee Recovers. I love the idea of having a positive message right from the get-go, that, you know, active noun saying I've recovered or Bee recovers. And I think it just kind of brings you along for the journey. So I hope that you enjoy the new name, whoever you are, the ones of people that watch this. I know that in the last couple of videos I said I was going to cover off some more history about food, weight, and body image obsession, and I'll definitely be doing that. There's just there's tons to uncover, and it's a really interesting journey, and I'm really glad I'm doing it. But it's just been a crazy busy little while, and no one's getting any sleep. And if you heard that sound, that's my now 7-month-old who is fussing a bit. So I have some New Year's resolutions. Some of them kind of skirt the edge on things, but why don't I just get started and then we can discuss and you can make up your own mind. So the first New Year's resolution is to cut out coffee. So I'm in the weaning process right now. So you know, stay-at-home mom, and I've always loved the taste of coffee, and I've always loved what coffee can do for me. On the positive side, it helps me to get like lots of things done that I don't necessarily want to do. It gives me energy. It's great after a workout for recovery. It's good for mood. It tastes really good, and it tastes good with other things, you know, like mixing it with creams and stuff like that is always just delicious. So, you know, especially in the beginning when the kids are really little, like basically newborn level, and you have no energy and you're just dying and you're dragging your ass, I don't think that I'm the first person who ever thought the only reason why I'm waking up this morning is to get my cup of coffee. And in fact, my love affair with coffee, and when I really knew that my love affair with coffee was actually interrupting my eating, as it were, was with my first kiddo, and it was 2016, 2017, and everyone was doing keto. So I thought, well, I'm 14 pounds heavier, I'm gonna do keto. And it started with bulletproof coffee, and then went down a bit of a rabbit hole into keto. And I mean, like, I like the flavor of bulletproof coffee. I like what it does for me. At that time I was, you know, able to get away with not eating until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But going back to what this channel is about, that keeps me further and further away from, in my opinion, recovery and sensing my hunger and honoring my hunger, and then also even honoring my tiredness. Like, I associate coffee with doing things that I don't want to do. So, I bet there's a lot of people out there like that. And so if I'm going to be looking at all of this and I'm going to be unraveling these pieces, I've got to look at what things do I do that I absolutely have to do and need sometimes to push myself a little bit more, and what are the things that I tell myself that I have to do. And I think the more damaging and the more painful is the stuff that I tell myself I have to do in order to be approved by other people or liked by other people, or to feel like I fit in, or however, whatever it is. So and in my case, when I'm not a stay-at-home mom, I'm a bit of a workaholic and have been for a really long time. So drinking massive amounts of coffee allows me to do that. So I want to get back to I also believe the old saying, a cup of coffee today steals your energy from tomorrow. So I just want to see if that's true. Like, I haven't been off the coffee sauce in like a really long time, except yes, when I was sick, but I was so sick that it didn't matter, you know, like I couldn't feel or tell anything anyway. So I'd like to be off and see what that does in terms of hunger and satiety, and just honoring my signals. The other thing that I have decided is that I am not going to get the intuitive eating book. Oh, this is also like it's not straightforward, because it never is. And that's the part that I find so fucking infuriating about this journey, is that it is not straightforward. Like, diets aren't straightforward either, but in the sense of like the law of thermodynamics, yes, calories in, calories out. It seems like a very simple thing, but it never fucking works. So it really isn't that simple, and especially as you go on and on and on over the years. Because when you first start your first diet, you always think, duh, this will work for me. And it does the first, the second, the third, the fourth time, less and less so over time. So, intuitive eating, the book, is a little bit like that for me. I am always looking for an expert. I would never say this on the like first level. Consider this vlog like always kind of like a couple layers down of consciousness. These aren't things that I normally would either A, admit to, or B, consciously talk about, because I know it kind of makes people uncomfortable when you're that vulnerable, and this doesn't sound that vulnerable, but there's a million other things that this applies to. But so anyway, I'm always looking for an expert. I think, you know, coming from an academic kind of background, always being a reader and needing like tons of research in order to make decisions, I am always thinking, even though my head knows that there is no such thing as an expert, like modern medical science really is only about 100 years old. Everything before that has just been building and building with a lot of anecdotal observations, and, you know, like, we don't really know what we think we know. We're on the tip of the iceberg in terms of the human body, for example, ocean life. Like, you know, we really are just at the cusp, the beginning of knowing more. And I always want some expert to step in and say, B, you're right, or B, you're wrong. You need to be doing this, 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 and this. And at the expense of listening to my inner voice of wisdom. And I think I started doing that sometime in my early 20s. I came from a really dysfunctional background, a really dysfunctional childhood home, and so there was no parental voice of expert reason, and so we were really, my sister and I were very far behind in terms of knowing like basic facts about how the world works, how you take care of yourself. Like, you know, I'll get into this later, but my parents were completely checked out. There was no like, toothbrushing was like it was so low on the list of what was wrong with the family. Like, so we didn't learn about stuff like that. We didn't learn about like, this is how you open up a bank account. This is how you fill your car with gas. This, because everything was always a big panic and scary and overwhelming. So when I got older and I started to see how far apart I was from my peers, I started to look for expert information. And funny enough, that's when the internet like really kind of took off. And so I was able to go and read blogs or read articles, read books, websites, and get all of that information about how other people adulted. And that started me down the path of figuring out how other people ate. For a really long time, I was in a very reactive binging stage and didn't really want to know how other people ate. Like, anything that touched on my reactive eating was like, no, 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 no. And then all of a sudden in my early 20s, maybe more mid 20s, I started to feel safe enough to sort of look at some of the stuff that I was doing. So my experts have always been, really, when it comes to food and weight, diet books, diet people, diet gurus. You know, if I was in my 20s now, it'd be like Instagram people. I would obviously still have lots of, you know, books and science and things like that, but I would use those Instagram people as like my, this is my real life version of what this doctor is saying is good. I'm rambling, I'm sorry, but I think you can kind of relate if you're like me. And all the time in my life, every time that I've ignored my inner voice and just went for that outer level of approval, it's really bitten me in the ass. Not every time, not all the time, not always, but a good amount of the time. And so that's why I want to do this process. But then I started thinking, now I'm kind of like hitching my star to intuitive eating. And like, when I go onto Instagram or, websites or Reddit pages, I have to be honest that, first of all, I noticed that there's a schism within the intuitive eating community as it is, of it's almost sort of like, do they prescribe? Is there like a health at every size thing? Are they prescribing this for binge eaters or people who are already overweight? Like, there's a little bit of gray there and discussion around that. And then there's the people who have been successful using it almost basically as a hunger fullness diet. So like already right there, there's like a lot of fuzz. And fuzz is not good for me at this point in my recovery. That, and again, I'm always looking for that expert opinion, and so like, how fucking dumb is it that we need to buy books in 2019, 2020 to tell us how to fucking eat, like, and how to eat like we ate as children, how to just listen to your body. And yet it does, and it doesn't make sense. So I've decided to not purchase intuitive eating and to just listen to my body, which then also then makes me feel like, oh God, if this goes horribly wrong and I continue to gain weight, what a fucking dumbass. But again, like, every time I try to turn this off and end this experiment, that other deeper voice says, please don't, please don't, please don't. I'm so tired of diets, and I think that you're onto something here. And so I keep trekking on. So then my third resolution flies in the face of the first two. And that is, I'm experimenting with the idea of not allowing myself to eat past like 6:37. Hear me out. There is that voice inside of me is saying, how to put it into words? It's saying like, yes, I want you to do this process. Yes, I understand that we're going to gain weight. But sometimes it feels like you, me, are just overeating at night, or eating or reactive eating, whatever you want to call it, at night because you feel like you have to, or you should, because you're trying to make up for all the lost times. And that voice says, I don't want to do that because it doesn't make me feel good anymore. It doesn't do anything for us. I don't like going to sleep on a full tummy. I don't like waking up full and then having to decide, okay, yes, I'm full, but let's have breakfast so that we're not, starting that cycle, right? I don't know if any of you, I keep saying that as if there's like actual people watching this. There's nobody watching this at this point. But I don't know if any of you have that sometimes where you're just binging because you feel like you should, or you're supposed to, or like, I'm allowed to, I'm bored, so. For me, it's at night once the kids are asleep, or while I'm trying to nurse the second one to sleep, and I'm just trying to take that like tiny little shred of time for myself. And it feels like things are so the same all the time. And just taking care of people is so draining all the time that little bit of food can be fun or something exciting or different. And yet it really makes me feel crappy. So I'm experimenting with the idea of saying, like, if you're hungry, eat. Like, I plan on eating well throughout the day, and fulfilling that hunger, and not judging myself if I decide to have pita chips and hummus instead of like a balanced meal for lunch. Like, all of that just is fully on board. And if I decide that I want to have a fruit and nut bar, those are like my weakness. A Cadbury's fruit and nut bar at 5 o'clock or whatever. Like, there's not going to be any sort of restriction during the day. And even if I'm not hungry, but I'm saying to that voice is saying, I really need a Cadbury bar. I don't plan on doing that, but I do plan on just having like a stop time. And I don't know if that is healthy or not, to be completely honest with you. Like from the diet mentality, I know that that's, you know, there's always like don't eat after 7 o'clock, and that was a rule that I had and broke many times. So who even knows if I'll be able to stick with it. But I feel like it could actually be a form of self-care, of me listening to that voice that's saying, I want to do this, but I'm kind of actually getting tired of binging. Like it's exhausting again now. Like it's getting too close to like extremes. That's what it is. It's like we go from totally restrictive to totally reactive, and I just want to be like, I always did this so that I could just kind of be in the middle. And so going crazy just feels out of control, and I don't like it. Yes, I am having problems with the amount of weight that I've gained. I don't like it. I feel like I wish there was more evidence around the process of recovery for everyone with an eating disorder by eating more. But because we had always used the other approach for so long in the industry, we don't really have that data. It's not out there. And so I truly see myself as an experiment and see this as a journey with lots of ups and downs, but I don't want to give my power away to a book called Intuitive Eating and have it tell me all the rules. And while I'm saying that, you know, then I feel like this might be a positive voice saying, right now, this is a rule for us. It's not so much a rule. Like, again, if I'm really, really hungry, go ahead. Or if I'm really, really, really feeling bingy. But it just seems to be like more, I want to be able to just kind of get a little space from the discretionary binges or the superfluous binges where it's just like, it's just mindless binging. So I don't know. I could be fucking this up, but I feel like I need to not do that every night. It doesn't feel good. So we'll see. It could be pausing my recovery. It could be helpful. It could be that this is a voice of health that's and wellness and love for myself that's saying, I think that you're further along in your journey than you think. Because I think that there's really some evidence for that, and I just need to listen to this voice right now, and it's saying I need a little less. and then it really does like what we've been doing during the day. It feels very satisfied with how things have been going during the day. So we'll see. I will be back soon with a little more history of food, weight, and body image obsession. Oh, I thought that was like a weird red mark. And thank you for watching, whoever you are. Bye.